that was a part of what I was doing, but apparently my job title just grew. I don't know. Director of Communications Development and Swinging.
My goodness.
Just got real.
Hey, I'm sorry, but we the Unleashed Boys. We got to be creative with these commercials.
I mean, I know that I've already proposed to Gwen and I'm marrying Jeremy, but don't make it something dirty just because I'm marrying two people.
Jim Davis, get out this studio. Get out this office. I'm not signing no certificates up in here. I don't believe in that kind of marriage.
We're going to Kentucky, baby.
Sit down, Kim. We back. All right. The show is sponsored by the Family Safety Center today, and we have Jordan Moore, a dynamic, awesome person. I love her to death. So, Jordan, let's dive into this month of Domestic Violence Month. Tell our listeners the purpose.
We'll talk about Wednesday.
Oh, well, okay.
Yeah.
Let's go from there.
Yeah, Wednesday, the next 3 Wednesdays actually, Pastor Gooch and I are going to be co-leading a Bible study / education workshop all about domestic violence and how that relates to spirituality in the church and all the different ways that the church can be a part of breaking the cycle of abuse. And that's going to be held at 561 South Prescott, and that's from 6:30 to 7:30. Is that right?
In the fellowship hall.
Yes, and don't worry, Pastor Gooch gave me firm instructions. We've got 1 hour, and then we've got to get out because Empire comes on, and people will get me if I make them miss
Hallelujah! E-D-D-B-I-Shinema.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we've got priorities. We're putting Jesus first, but then after that, we're going.
It's Lucius Lyon and Cookie.
So the 561 South Prescott address is the Cathedral Praise Church of Memphis, where the Pastor Donnell Gooch is the senior pastor. So we're joining forces with the Family Safety Center to spread knowledge about people and their misunderstanding about domestic violence. So Jordan, tell the listeners what they missed out on this Wednesday.
Yeah, we had a wonderful documentary. It's called Private Violence, and it's an award-winning documentary. It premiered at Sundance Film Festival to great critical acclaim, and it basically just explores the different themes of how victims have so much trouble navigating the criminal justice system, trying to get help, and how our laws really, especially, Tennessee has some of the toughest domestic violence laws on the books, but in other states, women and men that are the victims are not that lucky. Mm-hmm. And there are so many different things to take into account as far as being able, the burden of proof is on the victim, and being able to really press charges and get justice for these things that are happening out there, and just how challenging that is.
So this is Domestic Violence Month.
It is. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, mm-hmm. and so we're trying to really get out there as much as we can, educate the community. Mm-hmm. We've got tons of events coming up. You can follow our Facebook page and keep up with all of that. Mm-hmm. Our partners are having lots of events too, and we'll be sharing those because, there's plenty to go around. If you can't make one of ours, make somebody else's. Educate yourself. Find out what resources are out there, mm-hmm. because Memphis is a very rich and diverse community, and we have a lot of great resources out there that cater to all different needs. No one victim is the same, so we understand they're going to need a different variety of services, but we just want to kind of help plug them into all those different things that they need.
So Tennessee, according to the FBI, is 10th in the nation in domestic violence cases or domestic violence homicide cases.
Mm-hmm. We actually climbed to number 6 there. Wow. They just updated the numbers, and we're actually going to be number 6.
Wow.
And we just had one last week. Princess Jackson was found, stuffed in the trunk of a car. Yeah. And it's just, it's heartbreaking because it happens so much more than people realize. And a lot of times when they can't find motives and stuff, people won't even realize that a homicide is domestic violence related. Yeah. Because especially like women that are murdered by somebody, mm-hmm. it's over 90% times somebody they know, right. And a huge percentage of that it's an intimate partner. So it really is something that we're seeing more and more of.
And in the U.S., every 9 seconds, a woman is assaulted or beaten in the United States.
It's sickening. I mean, for the time we've been sitting here since you started that sentence, somebody got assaulted. That's what terrifies me. Yeah. Is that it's that common.
But, to be a native Memphian, and you made me want to think about what is the problem that domestic violence is so rampant in our city.
It's so much. It's such a complicated issue, and it's tied to poverty. Mm-hmm. We have a high poverty rate, mm-hmm. and we know that the number one thing couples fight about is money. Yes. So, you get in these really stressful situations, unemployment, mm-hmm. Low income, somebody loses a job, or, mm-hmm. There's just, not enough money to go around. It does really intensify. I'm not saying that relationship would be healthy and perfect, but it really does escalate those problems. And it's just so tragic that, it's like all these things kind of tie in together. So it's like, it's not like you're just dealing with one problem. You're dealing with these multifaceted problems that are all tied to each other. So really breaking the cycle is you have to get to the root of these things and really work on improving our city. We've got to lower that poverty rate. We've got to educate our children better. We know that children see violence in the home, and they many times will grow up to either emulate that violence or they will become a victim themselves. So it really is teaching our young people what healthy relationships look like and giving them role models.
So, in Memphis is the largest city in the state of Tennessee. Shelby County is the largest county in the state, and we have the most domestic violence reports here in the city and in the county. And like you said about the kids, 80% of those cases, children are in the home doing the domestic violence.
And you'll hear it over and over from parents. The kids don't see the abuse. They're asleep. Kids are sponges. They hear all of it. They absorb all of it. And even when they know it's wrong or it's upsetting, they still grow up and mimic those things. I'm a survivor of domestic violence. And my ex-husband, his father was very abusive to his mother. And he always said he never wanted to grow up and be like his father. And then he grew up and was just like him. It's really sad. I mean, I can't feel anything but pity for that. Because, it's like you don't have a chance when that's all you know and you're never taught any better.
You know what it sounds like to me? It almost mirrors the learned behavior of spanking.
It does.
And when that hit the national headlines, was it 15 or last year with the Adrian Peterson incident? And he talked about whipping his child and that he was whipped growing up and that his parents were whipped, and that's how they taught to discipline children. And I think that learned behavior and that embedded belief is passed on the same way with violence.
It is.
And I know that alcohol plays a big role in it. We don't want to go to poverty, but I think it's more like from back in the day, the early, late 40s and 50s, and how women didn't have an active role or making decisions in the home, and they were just pretty much at the rule of the husband. The falling behind the husband, being more subservient and not being talking and having opinions, and the ownership piece where, in a relationship, how it turns and it's not more of a partnership. It becomes an ownership with that kind of behavior and belief. So, like you, I was a product of domestic violence in the home, and I learned a lot of things that I patterned myself after in relationships. And it took me into my 30s and late 30s really to understand that this was not how a healthy relationship should be with someone that you love.
Well, if you want to get on this conversation with Jordan Moore, the Family Safety Center, my mother and myself, give us a call at 901-260-5926. Again, the number is 901-260-5926. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I think you really hit on a lot of interesting stuff. It is completely learned behaviors, and that's why I do try to tell people too, people that are abusers, they're not just bad people. I'm not a person to label somebody like that. I have a lot of sympathy because honestly, they've probably been the victim in their lifetime as well. Whether it was just seeing that when you were a child, that's victimization. You're exposed to it. You don't really have a chance. So I really want for people to kind of change how they think and realize that, let's say you get somebody out of an abusive relationship and you've got that victim help, but then what about that abuser? They're going to go on, they're going to date somebody else, and they're going to victimize somebody else until you can really get in there and change their behaviors. So a lot of local community resources, the Exchange Club, for example, is one of our partners at the FSC, and they do great healthy relationship classes and anger management, all kinds of great things to help abusers to break the cycle. And sometimes that's court ordered, and I don't care why they're there as long as they're there, because they need to hear it regardless of why.
Well, they have hotlines where people can call. And on a typical day, you have 20,000 phone calls placed to domestic violence centers and hotline nationwide. So do you have a hotline that people can call in that need any help?
We do. It's 901-222-4400, and that's 24/7. Our office hours are from 8 to 4:30, but we know that domestic violence doesn't take a break, and so neither do we. So we have that hotline, so you can get help and speak to somebody, because we know a lot of times it is late at night when these things happen, and you need somewhere to go, or you need just somebody to talk to, and we absolutely want to be there and be ready to help these people where they need us.
Also, that people who are victims of domestic violence, they suffer from depression and suicidal behavior. So this is a real serious issue that we have with our community, and so we need help, and we should reach out and use these resources of the Family Safety Center and other partners and all the above. But we have come to our second break of the show. It's 5:30. This is the Family Safety Center. They're hosting the show today here in the Unleashed Voice studio. So we're going to take a pause for the calls. We'll be right back. This is KWAM 980 Talk Radio, the Unleashed Voice for the LGBTQ community. And Kim Davis, I'm coming to Kentucky.
And he's marrying my fiance, and I'm marrying Gwen.
So she's doing a swingers thing. Ow! Kim Davis, love and happiness.